Okay. Well, actually, before we start, we have good news. Tor said they closed escrow on a house today. Yay!
Well, yesterday. We started the demo today.
Okay. So,
Sledgehammering earlier today.
that is so exciting,
Yeah.
so exciting. And then more good news. Amber, would you like to tell us your good news?
I moved from an ESP PE position to a credential first grade.
Woohoo, that's awesome.
That's very
Got my 3
exciting.
months in before I get sent over the hill.
I know.
Well, fingers crossed, nobody's taking my PE position, so we can make it credentialed for next year. I said I would do it for 1 year for the credential.
And then you could go back.
Yeah.
So the position is permanent or it's temporary till June?
Oh, it's permanent until June, but our meeting the other day was,
Cuts.
oh yeah, I'm totally the first to go. But a few people are talking about taking a leave of absence for a year, so.
Yay!
Because there's 2 of us on the chopping block right now, so.
Low end on the totem pole.
Yeah. But everyone keeps getting pregnant and leaving, and their seniority's dropping, so.
Put it in the water. Yes, exactly. We had that 1 year, including myself. I think everybody got pregnant that year, and it was like the principal, every time someone would come out of his office and tell him what was going on, he'd say, "Oh my gosh, is it in the water? What's going on?" Sometimes we had tough classes, so you do anything, right? No, seriously. Anyway, let's start, and welcome. I'm so proud of each of you, and I say this, good afternoon also to our distance students. I say this to all of you, on ground and distance, that I'm so proud of your writing. I truly, truly am. And I can see that you're reading the handouts, you're reading the information that has been distributed to you, and you are truly trying to follow it. And you're learning from previous annotations, which is really important. And I thank you for that. I made some notes this week as I was grading, and another really important thing is that we're on 7 and 8. That means that we are over halfway there with annotations, and what's really important is that you are all very punctual in your submittals, and I really appreciate that, and you will appreciate it. So we're all totally on track. As you might know, and as you can see now, if you get behind, it's very challenging to catch up and very frustrating. And so, again, I appreciate your punctuality in submitting on time. A couple of notes, most important, keep in mind only 2 articles from the same 2 authors and only 2 articles from the same 2 journals. So once you've reached the same 2 authors in your annotations, then you need to move on and not use those again, and the same goes for the journals. And I'm really proud of you. Many of you have some challenges with the authors' names, as you well know, because so much of our research, some that you're finding is globally. And with that global research comes some challenging spellings of names, and you're doing great. Thank you so much. I'm looking at your citation and looking at the author's name and looking, and then I go online and I check it out, and they're right. They did good. So congrats on that also. And most important, as we prepare for the proposal, which is what we'll be doing tonight, are you correcting your annotations immediately when you get them back? Don't put them off. Take a minute or 2 and correct your annotations so that you'll know that's it. It's final, you're done. Save it as the final one and get rid of the rest so that when you compile it, as you'll see tonight, into your proposal, you'll know, I don't need to touch that, it's done. Sasha, what was your question?
I had a question about, well, because I noticed on one of mine you corrected it, and then on the next one I did it, you didn't. And I thought that, so I'll tell you what it was. If you say like, between the ages of 8 and 12.
Right.
You're supposed to write out 8, but make 12 numerical, but then I read somewhere that APA says if it's a consistency thing, you break the rules.
Right, and if it's page 112, if it's ages, it depends on how you've written it, you don't correct it, and I do remember that, because I looked it up.
Okay, because the first time it was corrected, and when I went to correct it, I was like, no, and I looked it up again, and I was like, I don't think that's, and I was gonna ask you about it, and we haven't met, and then the next one, I did the same thing, and you didn't write anything on it, so, was I right then to do it that way?
Yes.
Okay.
So leave it that way.
Okay.
But you know what? The good news is, these go to a professional editor.
And they'll
So-
really tell us, okay.
They'll really tell us for sure. If it was late at night and I missed it, my apologies.
Oh, no,
But
and I don't know.
that last one, I remember thinking, is this right? And I looked it up. So the way you wrote it, the last time was correct. I'll check it out. Let's
Okay.
look at those. Yes,
Yeah,
thank you
thank
for bringing it up, Sasha. That's good. We'll have time for some questions also. So don't forget to count your empirical and your theoretical to make certain that at the end you have 8 empirical and 4 theoretical. Also, the use of however. Many of you use however. I'm going to go to the board and let me get a marker because someone has typed the markers, it appears, over here on the whiteboard. So when you use however, so you're saying, I don't know, pencils. This is the word before a semicolon, then however, this is on page 35 in the SNC handbook, about 3 or 4 bullets down. So semicolon, then the word however, comma, and then continue with pens, or however this sentence, pens will be used. This is exactly how you use the word however. Many of you are beginning your sentences with however, and as you can see on page 35, it should be embedded in the middle of the sentence, not at the very beginning. So there's a couple of suggestions on how to use in addition and however, etc. So don't forget that semicolon. Also, another really important thing, it's a small detail, but the professional editors will pick up on it, and I pick up on it also, is don't separate page numbers. Don't separate at all. If you have P and then you go down at the very end, here's your writing, and here's the page number, finish it either here or erase it and put it down here. Don't put page and then on the next line put 10. Do not separate them. Minor details,
And
but
the list thing too, right? With
and
A.
in the citation, exactly, thank you. The page numbers of your journals, keep them together.
I mean, like if you have like a list and like with the following and then a colon, then you have A, like don't put A and then the whatever you're saying.
Yes, gotcha, in your first paragraph, very good, Mariel. Don't, exactly, let's see. You said in the following, and then you've got the colon, and then you've got A, and then you start the writing down here for A, for your phrase of A. Please move the A down here, exactly. Keep it together, small details, but APA correct. Thank you. Good point. And let's see, any other?
I don't see it in here, but I feel like you didn't like when I used the word therefore either very much.
Yes, exactly. Do be cautious of that. It's okay, but read it again and see if you really need therefore.
Okay.
If you really do. Those kinds of words, again, in scientific writing, we're trying to be specific and succinct. And so, do you really need that linking word? Just see if you do. It's okay. Also, on page 35, if you'll note, in the handbook, it does talk about journal numbers and, no, 36, excuse me. Page 36, under the CATS citation, it talks about issue numbers, journal numbers and issue numbers in your citations. You may not find an issue number, and that has to do with the pagination of the journal. So some journals, oh, I was talking to Jennifer. I was talking to Jennifer about this. No, I was talking to Elizabeth, one of our distance students, about this. But it should be noted that the issue number is not usually included unless each issue of a journal begins on page 1. So some journals literally start with their very first journal number. So you'd have journal number 1, and then it just continues in terms of pagination. So you might have, and I've seen in some of your articles, you're reading articles from pages 1603 to 1654, something like that. So they continue numbering their pages from the very first issue of the journal. Other journals may start number 1 with the next journal number. So journal number 5 would start with number 1 instead of being maybe issue number 6, and the page numbers, you can tell the difference. If the page numbers are really large, then you know that the journals have just continued numbering from the very first one. Minor detail, but you may be frustrated by thinking, I need to find the issue number. Remember, the journal number is the first number that is italicized in your citation, and then the issue number is in parentheses following, and it's it's up and down, not italicized. So that's page 36. So don't be frustrated if you can't find an issue number. But I've done,
Just put in 1, if that's the case.
just leave it blank.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you
And
won't.
so you just italicize it, but then don't do any parentheses?
Right, because you'd have no issue number. But sometimes your article may not have it, so maybe do a quick Google search, type in the title, and see if it pops up in the same journal, because it might give you an issue number there.
So I have, I don't know how to get this, so I don't see the top part. Okay.
You don't see, there it is.
So it just says preventative science is what it is, 2016, and then it says 17, colon, 903 to 913, so that just means the page numbers.
Exactly. So what that means, that's a perfect example, thank you. So it's preventative science, or what is it?
Yeah, something.
Okay, preventative science
I
is
did
the
look it up.
journal, but how can you tell? You can tell because the page numbers were so large,
Yeah.
right? So there's no issue.
And there was a
number.
range, it said 903 to 913 instead of, there was nothing in parentheses, it just said 17, colon.
Colon.
And the page number.
And the page numbers, exactly. Good example, thank you, Tor. Okay, minor details again, but we got it. I don't want you to waste a lot of time looking for issue numbers. All righty, and the last thing is, you are all getting to be so good, but some of you are kind of bumping over that 30% in turnitin.com. So from 7 and 8 on, I will not accept anything that's over 30%, because you're doing a great job of learning how to paraphrase. And remember, Zulema, the one that you sent, that was odd the way the author wrote those questions. We both were challenged by it, I think. And so your numbers out of the box have always been so impressive and so very low, your percentages. So if it's that much of a challenge, then just put it in the way the author wrote it. Just copy and paste the
That's what I
questions.
did.
You did? And it was still, oh, you did? Oh my gosh, and it was still, well, okay. That was very odd. It
Yeah,
was-
those were just how they wrote.
It's how they wrote it. Okay, it was very awkward that that one word average kind of threw us, both of us, interesting. But that's an easy way, but thank you for trying. Okay, all righty, let's talk about the proposal, but before we do, any questions for the good of the order? Any questions? Anything?
This is just speculative, right? Just looking at articles, and if they're, we're doing elementary, I think all of us, right? Because you're both, right?
Yeah.
But if we're in elementary, is it out of the realm of being appropriate if we were looking, because I know you said to do research that was below our grade level and above.
Right,
Is college level too far above?
yeah,
Okay.
if you're doing elementary, exactly. Unless, I would trust your judgment, Tor, if it had something that was applicable in terms
I
of.
mean, it's just social emotional learning as college.
Okay.
Alleviating stress for college students, and it just is showing that it works.
Okay, because I was going to say, unless, I was thinking then about social emotional
Yeah.
learning, I take back what I say, because maybe the college level article would be applicable because
Yeah.
it talks about maybe how students continue, and maybe there's a study
Okay.
that, possibly a longitudinal study,
Yeah.
that was done early on with a few specific children or groups or whatever, and maybe there's some outcome or data or something at
Okay.
the college level.
Okay.
But it may, usually.
Seems a little far.
It's a
Okay.
stretch, it might be a stretch, most definitely. Because sometimes they do have case studies
Mhm.
that they've possibly followed a student.
Okay.
And that's another thing, all of you, and I know you are struggling with theoretical articles. So I wanted to open up that for discussion very quickly. Theoretical articles are challenging, and that's why I ask you to create research, empirical articles first. You're all in a really good groove now, so hopefully you can have more success in finding theoretical articles. Tell me how you have had luck finding theoreticals. And I say this because I'm not the one that's researching them. I've read the research, but I'm at a disadvantage because I'm on the other end of what you are on. I can recognize them immediately, but I'm not searching for them. So,
I just searched meta-analysis, but then I was getting confused because all the meta-analysis I saw were also a systematic review. And to my understanding, a systematic review was literature, but a meta-analysis is theoretical. So when they were together, I was like, because that's really all I was finding with my topic.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, well, now what? Because I've done 6 empirical, I need to do my theoretical now.
right, and you,
So-
each of you do need to kind of stretch and give it a try.
So when it's like that, I don't know what to do.
Yeah, I was having the same thing, like, I'm like, oh, there's a meta-analysis word in there, and then I'm like, oh, but they're not even theorizing anything at the end, they're kind of just summarizing everything about it, nothing new.
Yeah,
Nothing new.
and that's, like, the one I was reading last night was like, they did a systematic review, but they also did a meta-analysis. The meta-analysis was just saying like, if it was like heterogeneous, like results across these studies, and then I kind of was like, well, there's nothing new, exactly, I wasn't getting anything new, and so I was like, does this count, does this not count, does this seem to count to me?
So here's the deal. This is really important. What's important to you is the information. Look at it, and if it seems like it's research hypothesized upon other empirical researchers, then we can use it. I think you're really good at determining a literature review, the difference between a literature review. I think most of you have kind of gotten that. If you write it up like theoretical and it is applicable to your topic, if it's valuable, then do use it. The systematic review, it depends. When you get to the end of your articles, again, you're kind of challenged by it because it just doesn't seem like research, does it? If they've hypothesized and based it on other research, then let's use it, okay? Do the best that you can. This is where your professional judgment, and as I say, oftentimes, this is where you need to think. If it's going to be beneficial to you and your topic, then use it. A literature review, I think, is quite explicit, and many of you have recognized it as I've said that. And also manuscripts, papers that go to conferences, that go to, master's projects, master's theses, doctoral theses. All of those, as I've said, are presented at a conference and they're not quite published yet. In other words, they're not being peer-reviewed as yet. And that's the most important thing, is that scholars in the field are looking at the research, agree with it, say it's valuable, and then a publisher picks it up and it goes into a journal. So those are definitely out. And the literature review, keep those, because oftentimes they're really good for your 635 lessons. Don't get rid of that information.
And literature reviews are mostly just summaries, kind of all the strategies, right?
Right, exactly. So in my field, for example, with reading, there would be some reviews or, information presented on different reading strategies. And they may be comparing or just talking about, or maybe even talking about all of the possible reading series that elementary schools use, or the social studies series or science that are used at a middle school level. So those are reviews in themselves. And don't be afraid sometimes of a word review. If they say, we're reviewing this, keep reading further and find out. And you sent me a couple, and I've looked at them, and I think one is, I do, but the other one, I don't think so. Unfortunately, Zulema, without reading the whole article, I really can't tell from just the abstract, but now I've forgotten which is which, but I did
I know
have
which
to.
one you're talking about, but it's like what I was like agreeing with Amber that there was nothing new about it.
Nothing new, nothing that they hypothesized or researched, their research on top of research, exactly. And those are the key words, that's what you're looking for, research upon research. It's a meta-analysis, they've analyzed all these other empirical studies.
Has anybody found theoretical? I feel like if I saw more examples, because I looked at the one in the syllabus, and I'm like, I can totally tell that it is theoretical because it outlined the 3 studies that they looked, and then they hypothesized different things.
And that's the key word. When they talk about our review of, and then they talk about other studies, or they reviewed, if they reviewed 80, I don't know about that.
The one I read last night was 36, but I agree, I haven't found one that I felt like I looked at the example and was like, aha, this one clearly I could write the same way. I
Right.
haven't found one like that.
Is anyone searching any specific way to find?
I just came across them on accident on the first 2,
Yeah.
and then I'm on my 3rd one this time around. I did one of them straight theoretical, and this one was a little bit more tricky to distinguish between, but it just came down to they used data from others' studies to then review something new. It wasn't like, so if they're using somebody else's study, they didn't actually create a new study.
Did you use any keywords, Tor, that you could?
No, I've just been typing in it's just social emotional learning and ELL students, or social emotional learning and students with disability, or because
You're
most
getting more
things
specific, yeah.
is positive when associated to SEL, so they're all saying the same thing, that it improves academic efforts, but it just depends on what I'm kind of looking for. I haven't done any theoretical. I don't know.
But then they just make like another strategy. They don't actually make more research, right? Because like in all my empirical studies, I always like they have like why they're conducting the study, because like this hasn't been studied before and.
Well,
Right.
but that could happen in
But
the
then-
theoretical though too, because
Yeah.
they're manipulating somebody else's data or studying somebody else's data in a way that they're finding something else that's new. It's just the fact that they didn't create their own study. They just we used the data from this other, and that's my like main thing that I've been looking at. And I could be wrong, but how I tell if it's empirical or theoretical is if they're using their own data from a study they conducted, or if they're using somebody else's, regardless of if they're looking at it in a new way or taking bits out of there, they're still using somebody else's data.
But
And
not-
they're saying, I've got a better way. You're exactly right, exactly.
But not just like quotes or kind of like, oh, music does this, but an actual study, right? Because I have a bunch that they'll talk about like the benefits of music because these authors have said it in the past, and then they go from that to create something else.
Well,
Go ahead.
that's theoretical, right?
Yeah, that is theoretical.
By its very nature.
Even though it's not like a study, like they just said like, I don't know, something very vague was quoted.
Because that's part of their hypothesis. And so it may not be a great deal of information, but if it's enough that it suffices for you, then use it as theoretical.
Okay.
If it seems valid, if it seems, valid to you.
To answer your question, Anton, I've literally been putting, oh my gosh, what's my topic?
Science, inquiry.
Inquiry-based studies and then like in quotes, I'll put
Yeah.
theoretical article
Mm.
after it, and like, so I'm literally putting theoretical article after it, and I haven't found
gonna do
that
that
many.
right
Any
now.
luck?
That definitely helps. And I'll Google search them sometimes first, because Google seems to have like a billion more, and then I'll go off of that,
Yeah,
just see if I could plug
But-
into the
Sorry, I missed that. You put inquiry in what?
inquiry-based learning, that's like my
Yeah.
topic, and then if you do capital A and D, because that's like how it is, well, if you're Google searching it,
Yeah.
and it means that you want both those topics in the same search, and then I'll put in quotes, theoretical article.
Okay.
Because if you put theoretical article that's not in quotes, it'll search for theoretical, and article could be like somewhere else in the search. But if you put it in quotes, then it has to be together.
So you could do that with meta-analysis.
SEL and then capital and.
Mm-hmm.
And
So
then
does that,
quotes.
those same Boolean phrases, right, those work in
Yeah.
the thing, it's all the same across all search functions, right?
Mhm.
They're all pretty much the same.
That's-
Because I'm actually using a guy I work with, he did his online school at this Southern New Hampshire University thing, and they're, have unlimited resources, like ours is like, oh, there's like four journals that we can use, otherwise we have to borrow them, and theirs has everything.
Oh.
Because they're for profit, so they have unlimited resources, and so I've been using that one.
but you have access to it.
Yeah,
where
he gave me all
others-
his logins, so I just,
Right, others would have to pay, yes,
right,
exactly.
and where you have to wait 4 days to get it from here.
Yeah.
But so all the phrases are the same, it's okay.
But that's the thing, is really make use of Google search, Google,
I
a
haven't
Google
solved
search or Google
Scholar.
Scholar. Blech, Google
I haven't done that
Scholar.
once yet. but-
Then how do we know if it, so I just found one on Google,
Okay,
and then I put it in our search engine and it's not there. So how would I know if the one on Google is peer reviewed?
Did you go?
You can tell Google you
Go
want
back
to
to
do all
Google
that.
page?
Under Google Scholar.
Yeah.
You can't just go just Google.
No.
Google's, you have to layer it.
But that's been the
Just
problem
type in
too,
Google
like
Scholar
sometimes I'll
first.
find something on Google Scholar and then I put it in the EBSCO or whatever.
And you can't get it.
and then-
You know what though, if you keep Googling, if you keep playing around, take what you find in Google Scholar, take it out to Google, and say you put in full article, it sometimes shows up. People have shared it on Google illegally, and you can find it. I found them where it's the exact same thing that was behind the $40 rental paywall, and it's free through Google, because someone's like, the hell with that, and maybe the author themselves has actually shared it.
And sometimes the
And it's the
library.
exact same article,
It is,
with all the information and everything you need. And it's
perfect.
even like all the journal stuff is there, everything you need is there. Somebody has just made it free. And I know a lot of the authors get annoyed by these because they don't get any money. So they-
Exactly, they do not. It's like downloading music.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. But the librarians also mentioned in the past to not click full text. Try that.
Yeah, because full text is, I was doing that in the beginning, but then that is when you don't need to request it because you have the full text right there.
Right, right.
So it's-
I'm just feeling the
See what you get.
theoretical that I am finding, I feel like I'm stretching to say is related to my topic.
And you know what, your topic, it might be difficult with.
I know,
I know, specifically with your topic. I think Mariel's, because it's science,
Yeah.
is more accessible, and there's probably more written, I would think.
So then you can kind of stretch it out to just, like music, I could just do anything kind of related to music with theoretical.
Well, it has to be related to your topic, I'm not
Right.
understanding you.
Like, I just don't like, you said you were stretching it kind of.
Like, I'm just saying, like, I'm like, well, like, it's kind of related, but like the empirical articles I found, I'm like, okay, I see exactly how this applies to my topic.
Right.
With theoretical, I'm finding I'm kind of like, I guess I could argue this is related, but I just feel like there has to be better research, so that maybe I'm just not finding that it's related to my topic.
And keep working, because I don't want you to submit an annotation and have me say, not applicable, this doesn't work to your topic. What were you thinking?
If you're
Okay.
questioning that, we should send it to you, right, before we
Yeah.
go through the whole annotation.
Right, but I can't read all of them 2 or 3 times, exactly, so, yes, definitely. You know, I've tried to get back to each of you as quickly as I can, definitely.
I have a
Sasha?
question about, I've tried to request articles from the librarian and never gotten anything back. I've requested like 3 different articles and never got anything, not even like a, we can't get this for you.
You know what, I got, and I will mention that, I'll
Okay.
check. I got an email today, I was very frustrated. Surprisingly, some of your emails I found in my junk box. Also, some of your emails, even though you have an SNC Eagles account, it shows that you're unsecure or you're not on the server or whatever. It's been very bizarre, and Forrest, the young gentleman who is so kind to upload these classes for us, sent out an email today that just to faculty, because for some reason there's some corruption going on. Your emails, all student emails, are on a different server, so you're not being affected by it. So I've kind of gotten into the habit now of checking my junk mail, because I've found some emails in there. So Sasha, that could be it. If you haven't gotten anything, that leads me to believe
Well,
how frustrating.
I got like the confirmation of my request, those all came through, and then I never got one of them, so.
But I think confirmation doesn't come from,
It doesn't come.
that comes from
I'm
whatever
looking
you're
at my
supposed
junk
to
mail
get.
now.
And I'll say like from,
Because that's automatically
I don't have
generated by the
anything in my junk
machine.
mail.
Nothing in your junk mail. Well, you shouldn't. We were told that yours were fine, ours were the ones, and so they said, well, until they get it fixed, that we need to check our junk mail, our infected items and all of that. But anyway, contact, this is crucial, contact the librarian. Let me get that for you. Marcia Tejeda, it is in your handbook, but I can give you her direct line. This is Marcia, who does your annotations. She's the one that receives your requests and gets them out. So her name is Marcia, M-A-R-S-H-A, and it's Tejeda, T-E-J-E-D-A. And if you call, it's 775-881-7412, or you can send it to, and I'm going to write her SNC email on the board here. It would go to M. Tejeda, T-E-J-E-D-A, at sierranevada.edu.
Thank you.
Sorry, what's that for you?
Okay, what did you need? Okay, this is
you're
the,
like Wi-Fi right
Yeah.
now?
the email address of Marcia, so contact her specifically,
Okay.
because this is crucial, Sasha.
No, there's one word I really want, the rest I forgot about, but one keeps popping up, and so I requested it a second time. I was
Oh,
like,
good.
Are you
Okay.
getting these from me?
Well, then
No.
send her an email.
I'll email her, okay.
Yeah, definitely do, because as I said, I thought it was just me because I work from home so often, and it wasn't, it's all of us. How lucky are we? Anyway, technology is fabulous when it works, right? Anyway, okay, good questions. And thank you all for giving us some handy hints. We need it, most definitely, especially on theoretical articles.
Should I mention what I asked you earlier about the list after following the colon, whether or not you capitalize all of the.
Oh, yes, good idea, very good idea, thank
The
you.
research aims to answer the following questions, and then you list A, B, C, D. And my question was, if it's a quote, are you supposed to capitalize each question after each letter? So after A, if it's like what is, do you capitalize the W? Then B, do you capitalize the does?
Because they quoted around the A through D,
Right,
the whole thing.
But you don't
Right.
capitalize every single beginning, you only capitalize the first one.
The first, what was,
Question.
okay.
Yeah.
right. So
After
here's
the
your
letter. And the
A.
letters are still lower, or it's whatever they had.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the first one is a capital. And then if you, as you continue, then the rest of the beginning words are lowercase. Then, as Mario was talking about, what happens is, and it gets rather cluttered, but this is APA. So in her case, in her annotation that we discussed as she came in today, the author actually used A, B, C, and D. So she put the quotation marks here on the outside. If they had not used A, and she was using it to create her list, then the quotation marks would go inside there, and then they would continue to the last word,
Before B?
and it would go like this, exactly. And then you'd have to have B, and then you'd
Do it
start again.
But you wouldn't cite it until the end of the list.
Correct,
Will the
correct.
comma go before the quotation mark?
Yes,
Okay.
yes,
Oh.
sorry, yeah.
Wait, oh, I got it.
Commas, periods, commas go before, and commas and periods, quotation marks go after, commas, sorry, wait a minute, bleh. Quotation marks go after commas, periods, and question marks. Not to worry, we'll have the professional editors catch those, okay? Alrighty, but this does get rather cluttered, it really does, unfortunately, but that's the correct APA, it's the way to write it. Okay, any other questions? Good questions, thank you, very good questions. Okay, all right, let's do this, the proposal workshop. If you would, pull up please, and I am going to put it up here. Also, on the screen, but Sasha and Suleiman, I'll have you sign in, please. We'll start with the handout that I gave you, and that will be this hard copy, the Spring 2019 Proposal Workshop. This is a student copy, again, a handy dandy cheat sheet for you to follow this evening as we present your culminating assignment in 628, which is where all of your annotations, all 12, will be compiled in the proposal. And what you're doing is you are creating a proposal that justifies your topic. And it says, I've got research-based information in this proposal that substantiates my topic. So will follow this, but I'm going to put the proposal example up on the screen. You can either follow it on your screen, or you can follow it with me here. Okay, maybe I should dim the lights a bit. Is that too dark? No. Jim, does that work for you? Okay, great. All righty, this is our proposal. This is the sample. This is basically your format. You're pretty much going to follow this word for word. There are areas, obviously, that you will make it applicable to your own topic, but this is exactly how you're going to set it up. Times New Roman, 12-point font, 1-inch margins all the way around. If you would, and you can put this in your notes, but if you would turn to page 17 in your handbook, in the SNC handbook, as you know, this is where our section of the Phase 2 handbook begins, on page 17 of the SNC handbook. The proposal is specifically discussed starting on page 19, and it talks about the proposal and the first page, this title page, and then it continues until page 24. And on page 24, I'm going to hold this up for our friends at home. On page 24, for each of you, this is the proposal evaluation. We call it the PR. It's the proposal review. It's a rubric, the evaluation that will be returned to you when your proposal has exited proposal review by the 2 professional editors. So when you write your proposal and you're pretty much done with it, check this rubric to make certain that you have followed the guidelines and it fits. You've included everything per the rubric, because this is what will be returned, a rubric. You'll have 2 editors' copies, and each editor will attach this rubric to the top of your proposal. So, information as you're writing that you may need is from pages 17 in here to page 24. Much of that is about the proposal, page 17 to 24 in your SNC handbook. Now, let's return to these 2 documents, the proposal sample that I have up on the screen, and also the student copy of your proposal workshop. And I have attached electronically, but for you in class, I've made hard copies of the 4 documents that we'll discuss that you'll need for your proposal. The example has some information in red, and that's where I've given you some explanations that are needed. The title page is the very first page, obviously, like the front cover of a book, and it is left aligned exactly like this. At the top, candidate's name. That'd be you. Don't put candidate's name, put your name.
Put candidate's name, colon.
No, you don't need to do that. You do not need to do that. So you would put Victoria McNamara up there. I would put Cheryl Watson up there. Your complete mailing address. And this is important because these are saved in our electronic database. For Sierra Nevada College, it is required, it's law. And so if there is any question in the future, or we need to find you for some reason, we have all this information. And I have used this before for students that needed to finish 635. They took one too many LOAs, and we were trying to get them back to finish. So, very important, your current complete mailing address. So you would put your house number or your PO box and your city, comma. For example, if you were in South Lake Tahoe, you would write South Lake Tahoe, comma, California, and then give us your zip code. All of it is on one line. Your complete mailing address is on one line. Your phone, your cell phone number, whatever you answer most frequently. Then, on the fourth line, please give us your SNC Eagles email address. You don't need to put SNC email address : you do not need to do that. Just print it out. Another email, your personal email, again, I've used it often to try to locate students or retrieve information. EDUC 628 instructor, that would just be me. So just put Cheryl Watson on there. Then, spring 2019, that's our semester. This is the semester and year you are completing or completed 628. Then the title of your project, and we will talk about that. You're going to create a title for your project, but it may morph, it may change over the semester once you get into 635. There are 3 elements that are extremely important in your proposal. The first one is the title should reflect the content area. So, your content area. Sasha, what's your content area?
Anti-race education in elementary social studies.
Very good. So that's a big mouthful, exactly. Zulema can say music, right? Or Amber can say PE, but you're absolutely right. So you're going to put, your title may be very long, Sasha, but it's going to be specific to what your topic is. So, and we can work on that. Then the format. You are going to create in 635, you're going to create a resource guide, an instructional guide, a manual, a teacher's guide. Some sort of format needs to be specified. What do you want it to be? Amber, because yours is PE, yours might be a resource guide, not necessarily instructional. I'm thinking, Mario, that yours might be more instructional, but this is your choice. You can choose whatever you like, but that's the format. What kind of a guide, what kind of a manual is it going to be? Then, the last thing is the intended audience. You need to tell us what grade level this is intended for. Anton, yours would be probably just high school, correct? And usually we wouldn't just say high school, that's a bit broad, but because of your topic, being an SRO, that is very applicable. But I'm thinking, let's see, Mariel, yours is middle school, correct?
Mm-hmm.
What grades are you thinking?
Well, I did like 7th, but they've pretty much just been generic, saying middle school, so 6 through 8.
Okay, but now's the time for you to pick a grade level. And the reason you're going to pick one grade level, maybe 2, you don't want to pick too many, and one grade level will make it easier, is because when you begin to write your lessons in 635, they are standards based. They are aligned with standards. So if you have 3 or 4 grade levels in there, say grades 3 to 5, then you're going to have way too many standards. And then you're going to have to align it to your lesson delivery, your description. Your assessment is then based on your standards and blah. Anyway, what's going to happen is you've got way too many standards and it's more work for you. So think about specifically choosing one grade level.
7th grade.
Okay, good, we're done. All right, so yours will be seventh
For
grade.
me then, like, the PE standards are broken up K to 2, 3 to 5, and then so on. So I
Right.
could pick just 3 to 5, for example.
You could,
Okay.
or you could do both, so that you'd have maybe K5.
Because what I'm imagining with the lessons is like a simplified version of the exact same thing
Right,
for K to 2, and then, add something that makes it more challenging for 3 to 5.
right. And what you could do is, you could call it for elementary physical education educators or teachers.
Okay.
And yours is different also. Yours is in kind of the same class as Anton's because you specifically do not teach one grade
Yeah.
level. And so,
Mine's not for students either.
yeah, that's true. And we'll talk. You're right. Yours would be more,
High
we
school
call it
administrators.
for administrators or teachers.
Right.
Right. You're absolutely right. So yours is gonna be a little bit, Anton's going, I don't feel that well tonight, and now you're got me on camera. But you're absolutely right. So we can talk about it.
Now,
And
how would they be different? Like the way he writes it?
so, if you wanted, and yours might be the same.
Well, that's why I'm
Erin.
kind of like, what
Right.
would my other option be?
So here's your other option is, and Tora and I talked about this also for her project, is sometimes a 635 project, you need to teach the teachers.
Okay.
Your intended audience of this project is teachers, but most of these 635 projects include lessons that will be delivered to the students. So they
Like a
are,
lesson plan that in theory I could read and go teach tomorrow.
right.
Okay.
You could, it's like a teacher's edition
Okay.
that you put on your desk and you go, yep, I need these materials and I need to do this, and now I can go teach it.
Okay.
But many of you, like Anton, like Amber, and maybe also like Tor, first you're gonna teach the teachers because they're not that familiar with SEL, or they're not that familiar with PE strategies or even PE language. So maybe the first few lessons might literally be a professional development. And then at the end, you'll give us some samples of how that professional development is then delivered into kid lessons, so to speak. And
So
he'll do the
Would
same.
you include, for the intended audience, would you include, general education teachers and fifth grade students?
No, you would not.
It's just teachers, and then you include samples, so it'd be like 6 lesson plans on how to teach teachers, and then 6 lesson plans on sample lesson plans that they can use for students. But
Right.
the whole thing should be read by a teacher.
It is, your intended audience, you are writing for a professional
Okay.
credentialed teacher.
Okay.
Exactly. And we'll play with some titles, we will. And Beth and I were actually talking about that this afternoon. She was down in Reno, of course, and so we were emailing back and forth some sample titles and how to literally take your proposal title and morph it into kind of a creative title for your 635 project for the front cover. We'll get into that, but right now, what's important is to think about your title in terms of, and if you look at the sample, this sample that I've given, and wow, Mario, did you get lucky on this one? The sample that I sent out is Inquiry-Based Teaching, an instructional guide for middle school grades 6 to 8 science teachers. So, yeah, I know. So there will be a lot in there for you to follow more specifically because the topic is so familiar to you. But inquiry-based teaching, so there's the content, an instructional guide, there's the format for middle school grades 6 to 8 science teachers. So there we are, there's the intended audience, and it's the middle school grades 6 to 8 science teachers. So again, we've kind of highlighted with inquiry-based teaching and science educators. or teachers, excuse me, we've highlighted the content area. So, then, all of this information, as I said, has notes in red to guide you for this title page. Notice that, as I said, it's left aligned, but also it's bolded. Everything is bolded on that page. Then, please note that this is a title page similar to the front cover of a book. Therefore, it is called page 1. It's counted, but it's not numbered. So this is a little bit challenging, and you may have to Google it or go to YouTube literally to figure out how to begin numbering at number 2. But you won't put a number on this. The next page, page 2, will literally start your numbering. And the proposal that I'm talking to you about is going to be 6 to 8 pages long. If it's longer than 8 pages, it will be returned to you for revision. It begins with the project goals. The project goals are intended for two people. The first is for the teacher, the second is for the student. In this case, it says the primary goal of this project is to develop an effective research-based, inquiry-based, it's kind of a mouthful, instructional guide. There's that format. It's an instructional guide for middle school, grades 6 to 8, science teachers. A secondary project goal is to foster student engagement by integrating inquiry into existing middle school science curricula. So if you notice, the first goal is for the teachers. They have to develop or create an effective research-based, inquiry-based instructional guide for middle school science teachers, for teachers. So the first goal is for teachers. The second goal is for students. Notice it says, do not include student achievement. No testing, do not imply improvements in academic achievement. And what that means is, don't use the word improvement. Do not say, for example, a secondary project goal is to improve student grades, for example, student science grades. We use words like foster or encourage rather than the word improve. If you use the word improve, that means that you are literally doing research and collecting data. You're creating your own empirical study. So do not use the word improve. There's lots of words, and I will help you brainstorm them, but to foster, encourage student engagement. Professional questions. And you're going to use these exact words, excuse me, I'm jumping back to the project goals. You're going to use these exact words. Start your sentence with, the primary goal of this project is to develop, is to create an effective research-based. That's how you'll start it. That's literally how you'll start your sentence. You'll start your second sentence with a secondary project goal. That's why I'm saying this is almost not verbatim. Do not quote me on that, but it is such a clear-cut format for you to use, making it so much easier as you embed your own specific topic into this proposal. Who had a question?
I just want to go back, sorry, to the numbering the pages.
Uh-huh.
Would it, and it's obviously a header, I'm assuming.
You can put them wherever you want. Either
Okay, it's not,
in a
like
header.
APA is normally like a header and is the first, I believe it's 20 characters of your topic.
Topic, right.
So. if-
There is no header.
Okay.
Notice, there's no header.
Yeah, but I don't also see a page number, so I was just curious if there was like a specific.
And you
spot.
know what? And at the very end, I should show you.
Okay,
At the very end, I didn't specifically number these pages
okay.
because
Oh,
it is 8 pages long, but
okay.
I have handy dandy tips in there. And so, they're not specifically numbered.
So it doesn't matter if you number at the top or the bottom or.
Wherever, or in the middle, wherever you want it.
Okay.
As long as you number the pages, and we know that there is only 6 to 8 pages.
But they can't be in a header or a footer. It's like how we've been doing it with McNamara EDUC 628. When you're like within the document, you're not like up in the second or the different section.
You know what, I think you can do, I played with that this afternoon, and I think you can put a page number in the header
You
or
can.
in the
I mean, I
footer.
know you can, but then you're not having the 1-inch margins because it's higher. It's
Right,
like-
and then it's gonna be higher, exactly. And then
So keep it within the document. Just-
keep it within the document, and the frustrating part
That's so
that I
weird.
was.
CPA uses headers.
I know, and the frustrating part that I was playing with this afternoon was each time I put it in, just to see if it worked this way, and it did. Each time I put it in a header or a footer, then it put page number 1 on the title page. So you have to start numbering with number 2.
You
can
can
make the
click
first
a
page different.
different person,
Yeah.
different page.
You can what?
You can make the first page different. There's a, in the header option, you say like different first page. 'Cause you can-
Yeah.
Oh.
It's, and then it's just figuring out how to make it number 2 on that second page instead of 1.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really good to know, and see, I probably have
If you
an
don't
older
put in the
version
header, you
of
can just put
Word.
whatever number you want.
Yeah, which is probably, because you're only doing technically 7 of them if you're going to 8 pages. 2 through
Actually,
8.
Actually, you're
I just did
right.
it on my annotation just to see what it would do, and yeah, I did it perfectly fine in the header.
Oh, good.
With 1 not being there, and then on page 2.
Did you have to manually input page 2?
No,
Oh, good,
all you
because,
click is, because it'll automatically do 1 and
Different
2,
first
and then you just click the box that says different first page.
different, okay, good, because you're literally, this proposal will be about 30 pages long. Do you know why it'll be 30 pages long?
Annotations.
Because it's got, you guys are so smart. Yes, because it's got the annotations after the actual proposal. So, yes, it's gonna be around 30, 31 pages long, most definitely. So, let's go back. These are the most critical, and these are the ones that we will continue to work with, your project goals and your professional questions. Then your professional questions should not need a yes or no answer. They are aligned, they're related to your goals. So for example, the first primary goal was to develop an effective, research-based, inquiry-based instructional guide for middle school 6 to 8 science teachers. The first question, as it relates, is what effective, research-based strategies can teachers use to integrate inquiry-based lessons and activities into existing middle school science curricula? So you can see how it's very related, but it's more specific in asking, what can teachers do to integrate and use, if you so choose, effective, research-based strategies, methods, whatever works for you. Then you will say, the following authorities contributed to the answer of this professional question. And this is where you're bringing in all your research. Your annotations are going to be listed here. You are going to list them in alphabetical order by the first author of the annotation.
The first author's last.
The first author's
Yeah.
last name, right. So in this case, Eck, Meadows, and Balcom. E, then Jensen and Kindom, then Kowalker and, woo, that's a tough one. Starts with a V, anyway, then Longo. These are considered in-text citations, therefore, they use an and, not an ampersand. And this is where I tell you, follow this format and you can't go wrong. Then there's a second question, and there's some more authors down here. In order, alphabetically, by the last name of the first author. in your annotation. Here's the trick. You've got a first professional question that is applicable to the teachers. The second question says, for the students, how does inquiry-based learning enhance middle school student engagement? So remember, go back to that secondary project goal was to foster student engagement by integrating inquiry into existing middle school science curricula. So the question then is aligned, how can you do that? How does inquiry-based learning enhance middle school student engagement? Then there's more authors here. A bit confusing, but here's what needs to be done. You need to literally lay out all 12 of your annotations. I would do this. Take a paper copy, put them on the floor, put them on the bed, put them on the countertop, in your kitchen, and look at them. And put a sticky note, professional question number 1, professional question number 2. And start kind of sorting them. Does this really apply to my first question or my second question? Sort them, because you are going to list the authors based on, and it doesn't have to be scientifically proven that they definitely fit here. Use your best judgment. How do these authors fit into your first question? How do they fit into your second question? And we'll continue to talk about this at our next class session. But what you're going to do then is you'll have 2 stacks. Because I don't want to see all the authors here and all the authors down
Can they be
here.
both?
You'll probably have a few that will be both. You're absolutely right. So you've got 12 annotations. Make certain that you've got some here and some here. Maybe your first question will have 9 of your authors. Maybe your second question will only have 3 of your authors. Maybe annotation number 5, 6, and 7 fits in both questions. So you really have to keep track. And when it comes back from me, I will number them. So here, let me see if this one has, I don't see it, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 2 that, and I'm trying to see them, it's a little bit blurry, but I'm trying to see, why am I not, oh, Samson. No, I thought Samson was down here. Samson is not down here. Why am I not seeing this? Okay,
They all
I'll
look
go.
Yeah, they all look good.
Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 1 up here.
The top one only has 7.
7. Okay, then, okay. But you will probably have, possible to have 1 or 2, 3 or 4 annotations that overlap. But in total, there has to be 12. In other words, all 12 of your annotations are included in either the first question, the second question, or both. Okay?
I should pick articles with far less authors with 2 last names.
Right. It's challenging, right. Very challenging. That's technical, but if you follow this format, it won't steer you wrong. Alrighty, notice that author citations after the professional questions are in alphabetical order by the first name of the first author, and considered in-text citations therefore use and not an ampersand between the authors. This is exactly how you'll do it, and do not use unlike your annotations that you write for us in the citation, how you use the initials of the authors, don't use the initials. All you use, it's exactly like when you write your annotation in text. You just use the last names of the authors, no initials. Okay, this will go quicker. Your rationale. Your rationale is about 2 pages long at the most, maybe 3, but remember you're in that window of 6 to 8 pages of your proposal, so you don't want your rationale to be too long and too wordy. What you're going to do is you're going to take the best stuff from your annotations and put it into your rationale. And you're going to start with all good writers, as all good writers do, start with a sentence that's really a wow. It's a punch. In recent years, student interest and enrollments in science at the high school and collegiate levels have notably declined in the United States. So that's, wow, really? Seriously? Information. This decline has resulted in an education policy shift from traditional science teaching to student-centered inquiry. So now you're getting into some information that is drawn from your annotations that's really going to give you an opener to your topic, to your title. Education researchers have established that science teachers can view inquiry implementation as intimidating, impractical, and inherently difficult. And then it goes on to say that one reason for this is the difference between traditional science teaching, which is educator-centered, kind of like what I'm doing right now, bad teaching. I'm the sage on the stage as I'm trying to present this to you, versus discovery, inquiry-based for the students. The inquiry is a student-directed process that requires teachers to manage a collaborative learning environment rather than being the sole bearers of knowledge in the classroom, like I am right now. So, give us some information and give us a definition of your topic, especially, for example, inquiry. What is inquiry-based? What does that mean, and how does it differ from traditional teaching? So, then it continues to a second paragraph and a third paragraph. Just kind of follow the structure of this rationale and note the information in your handbook to help you. But I also passed out some information, this handout that begins with a professional project proposal and graduate writing. And at the top, at the top is a brief paragraph about good writing and reading good research, which you have already done. But this talks about the rationale. It's a little more specific. But if you, go ahead, sorry.
Essentially, well, I mean, because it looks like that one, you're putting in information from your annotations,
Right.
so it's kind of like a,
It's a compilation, yeah.
can you plagiarize yourself in this?
Well, yes, you will, literally. You literally will. But what you're really pulling out is, the best stuff that you're pulling out, Sasha, is from your authors, more so than just from you. Because this is going to look a little bit different than your annotations. For example, in this second paragraph it says, according to the National Research Council, inquiry requires identification of assumptions, blah, blah, blah. Then, you're writing in third person. Now you're going to jump to first person. Because you're going to say, in my professional experience as a school resource officer, as a city police officer, as a, let's see, even if you aren't in a classroom and you've only student taught, don't show your cards and say that, well, I don't really have that much professional experience, but use the word, in my professional experience as a middle school science teacher. I have facilitated a variety of traditional lessons with methodical, generic activities and experiments. So she's talking about the traditional teaching of science. Students participating in these activities generally gain little from the experience and can disengage by the lack of choice and the missing element of discovery. So tell us why you chose this topic. In one sentence, 2 sentences, maybe 3. Maybe 3. Don't get too wordy. Again, we're looking at conserving space because you only have 6 to 8 pages. So, at one point, you switch from third person to first person and you write about yourself and begin with, in my professional experience. Then you go on to give us more information, and you can read the rest of this rationale, which then continues onto the next page, which is actually page 3, even though there are no page numbers. But note my red comments at the bottom, the end of the rationale. It says, include 2 to 4 citations in the rationale from the annotated bibliography and any additional references if needed. And I'll mention that very quickly, but you're going to, because you're pulling from your annotated bibliography's research, you're going to use some of the authors to cite them. Then the concluding paragraph, follow that concluding paragraph. Read it and follow it in your rationale. Additional references. For example, in this, she said, in recent years, student interest and enrollments in science at the high school and collegiate levels have notably declined in the United States. She did cite it from her author, one of her annotated bibliography research annotations. But say you used some federal government, and Anton, you might use a lot of statistics. I'm sure there's plenty of statistics for you to use that was not from any of your annotations, but maybe it was a national government report or something. That would be an additional reference, and that will go at the end because you need to cite it also. Your intended, oops, excuse me. Oh.
Sorry, I'm just a little bit confused when you use the word cite versus reference. You're saying that when we're writing within the text, you want us to be referencing 3 to 4 of the our annotations, but you're not saying at the end of that rationale we're not adding in 3 to 4 like as a bibliography because that comes later, right? With all
Yes, and when I get to it, it actually
okay, you're
goes.
saying like reference those within your writing.
Right.
In the rationale. Okay.
In the rationale, only reference your research from your annotations.
Yes.
But you can use other research,
Yeah.
other
from-
statistics, or even another book
Okay.
that is a teacher's guide that you just really
Okay.
believe in. Then at the very end, see where it says additional references? That's where you will cite them in APA format, and we'll work on
Okay.
that together. But it says optional but required if citing from sources not included in the annotated bib.
And that would come, sorry, where is this?
This is the very last
end.
page of the proposal.
Okay, not after
Because
the
the
rationale.
next page begins the annotated bibliography.
Okay.
So, you don't put it here at the very end of the rationale. You put it at the end of the proposal, the 6 to 8 pages. And many of you may not do it, but I see that possibly Anton would definitely have some statistics on juvenile crimes, delinquency, something that you might pick up from some U.S. Bureau of Violence or something, possible. Question, sir? No question.
Nope, just hand resting.
Okay, resting your hand, all
And
right.
maybe say from like a government or state website.
Exactly.
Okay.
And for you, absolutely, Amber, you might have from the I don't know,
There's a lot like,
health and fitness or something,
Yeah.
the US health, I don't know, where they would state how many children are obese.
that's how they all start, all these articles.
Yes, exactly. So it's either embedded in one of your annotations, or it might be somewhere else in something that you've read and you say, ooh, that's good stuff. I wanna include it in my rationale. Tor?
You can answer this later if you want to
Okay.
keep going, but I'm just curious, because a lot of my annotations, the papers that I've been using are like just social emotional learning in general. It
Right?
doesn't have to specifically be done through social studies, but that's what I'm choosing to have my standards on. It's how to teach SEL through social studies.
Right.
So when I'm talking about this, am I just kind of doing the social study or the SEL and the efficacy of that and how, it's so important talking about that because I don't have specific research on social studies.
No, you don't. So take a look at this last paragraph. It says, this instructional guide presents multiple effective research-based inquiry strategies and activities for middle school. Due to the varied science curricula taught in middle school, it's adaptable across a wide range of student population and subject matter. And right about in here
Where
somewhere,
you bring it up.
you will bring it up. You'll say that inquiry-based lesson plans and activities, step-by-step instructions will be provided for teachers
Okay,
within the social studies curriculum.
okay.
So you don't need to go
So it doesn't
into
need to
social
be
studies.
specific to that, it's like your general topic, and then you can say, at the end, I'm gonna do this, adapt this for social studies material.
Right, this is how I'm incorporating these
That makes you feel a lot better, Emma.
learning, I know,
I'm gonna
I
write
know. These learning lessons are going to be delivered via the social studies curriculum.
Copy that.
And I know you'll fit it in just right.
So I can be using articles that, like a lot of my articles right now are about autonomy support that are not specific to PE.
Right. Well, yours have been,
I
but,
know, but I'm running out of those.
I know,
That's
I
what
know,
I'm asking.
exactly.
It gets harder though.
It does get
If I
harder,
don't
exactly, except you guys are getting better
Because
at
I was
it.
under the impression we could say it.
It really needs to be applicable to your topic, to PE, but let me see how it ties in. Because like Zulema, she's trying to create movement in the classroom that will, so to speak, I use this loosely, improve academics. And so you might find something that is tied to a curricular area that how PE benefits maybe a healthy child, a well-nourished child, a active child, would help improve academics. You may find something like that.
I mean, there's a ton on how PE like helps students' life skills, but I haven't.
Concentration maybe?
Yeah, there's a ton of it on that, but then I feel like I'm getting really broad.
Yeah. And here's the deal. We want you to,
Yeah.
because otherwise you're creating more work for yourself. More work. Okay, let's finish this up.
I
Okay,
have articles for you, by the
the
way.
intended audience. Copy these words. The intended audience of this project is middle school 6 to 8 science teachers. The intended audience of this is 7th grade science teachers. That's it.
Would you start in a new page or just you don't wanna miss any spaces?
So this whole document, good question, Zulema, is double spaced. The whole thing is double spaced. So when you go from the end, take out that red. When you go from the end of your rationale, it's just like you're starting a new text line, double space and start intended audience. And then procedural steps. I just happened to start at the top here, but I might have started in the middle. Procedural steps on page, procedural steps, 21 in your handbook. Nope. Yes, I was right, 21. On page 21 in your SNC handbook are procedural steps listed. They are also listed similarly here in the sample proposal. You are pretty much going to copy these exactly, except you will not say inquiry-based teaching methods. You will say synthesize or create effective research-based SEL teaching strategies or methods and teaching strategies appropriate for elementary, students in elementary. You're following the format, but you are embedding your own wording so that it is applicable to your topic, your subject, your curriculum area.
So is this where I narrow down the 7th grade, or is that just during my lesson plans where I'm doing that?
I would use 7th grade.
Okay.
Just use 7th grade. Yes, absolutely. That's what your topic's going to be about. Now, if you chose grade 6 to 8, for example, and then you got into 635 and said, you know what, I don't want to do 6, 7, and 8. That's 3 grades. I think I'll just do 7. We'd be okay because your proposal covers it. But if you said, I want to do high school science, no.
Yeah.
Then you'd have to redo your whole proposal. No, not a good idea. Exactly. Okay, then, all right. You're going to follow these. Please follow these almost exactly, the procedural steps, and do check the SNC handbook. These have been created by the author, but yet they're very similar and sequential. Notice at the very top, I wrote that short line. I put, no, this line is a widow. Orphans and widows in writing. What happened is, and be very cautious that you're not doing this, in the standards matrix. A matrix will categorize inquiry-based instructional strategies and indicate, and then on the next line, which standard targets each strategy. So what we call this is a widow in writing, in that, and look at the definition, I gave it to you here. It's a paragraph ending, so the last part of a sentence that falls at the beginning of the following page. Thus, it's separated from the rest of the text. So it looks awkward. It's just one line, and it's.
Is it okay if it's a full sentence? Like you would enter push enter on the previous page so that it's a full sentence?
It's okay, but try not to do that.
Okay.
Because it's disruptive to the reader in terms of the content.
So would you control enter before D?
So what you would do
Or like page
is,
break, I mean?
what you could do then is, I did this on purpose so that you would see it. What you could do then is you could start that I and just
On
move
the
it
next
down.
page. Okay.
Just move it down. You may have at the bottom, some of your pages may have a little bit more margin than others in order to avoid what has happened here.
Okay.
Then, and this is why you're doing your professional organization. Now, the last part of this, you are going to list your 3 standards. The first, professional organization standards addressed in the project. Write it just like it's written. Then you are going to write, for example, if Mariel used National Science Teachers Association, if she used that, then it would go right below. The first standards is going to be from your professional organization that you're doing your PowerPoint on. And notice she used 1. Don't get too many. 1, 2 at the most. This is a professional principle from the National Science Teachers Association. There may be a goal, there may be a mission. Your professional organization may not necessarily have standards. It may not call it standards. It may have a principle or a goal or a mission. Then include that. Then you'll go into your Interstate Teacher Assessment and Support Consortium. And these are listed in the handbook. They're listed on page 11, I believe. But they are also, I handed them out to you. Nope, they're not on 11.
That was like 31 or something.
No, they're on page 14. They begin on page 14, there are 10 of them. You'll be using these and becoming familiar with them. There are 10 standards: learner development, learner differences, learner environments, content knowledge, assessment, planning for instruction. Choose one, maybe two, that will be applicable to your topic. So for example, she says she chose learning environments. And how true, because she's talking about switching from traditional teaching, standing up here like I'm doing, yapping at you, to inquiry-based, to discovery. So she chose learning environments. The teacher works with others to create environments that support individual and collaborative learning and that encourage positive social interaction, active engagement in learning, and self-motivation. So that's very appropriate for her topic because she's talking about inquiry-based learning versus traditional, and the learning environment is the most appropriate for her topic. So the first set of standards is going to be your professional organization. The second will be from that list, either on page 14 or the handout that I have given you, or the handout that I sent electronically, of the INTAS standards. They are the International Teacher Assessment and Support Consortium. And at the, oops, I forgot to show you. You are going to list the acronym, as we did here for the NSTA, in parentheses, acronym. Interstate Teacher Assessment and Support Consortium, acronym, INTAS. Notice that the N is a lowercase n, not an uppercase n. Follow this. It will really be an excellent guide. Then, the last set of standards are your content standards addressed in the project. So, for example, she used the Next Generation Science standards, which have been embedded now into the NVACs, the Nevada Academic Content Standards. Those of you that are in Nevada will use the NVACs. Those of you that are in California will use the Common Core State Standards. That's what those are called. And we will work on yours, Anton, because you're special. So, most definitely. But, and Tor, you're special also in that you are not going to use content standards, you will use the SEL standards, but you might use one or two social studies.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you'll have
But
that.
you should have 3 under that category.
Not necessarily, not necessarily. Be cautious. For example, one student that I was working with, she was doing a phonics project. And so talk about her standards. She got way too wordy in listing too many standards. She got into beginning letter sounds and ending letter sounds and digraphs and blends and all of that. Just talk about recognizing words and sounding out words. Find the most generic, the most overarching content standards that are applicable. Don't get too specific. Then that's where your additional references go, if you have them and they're used in your rationale. Then, here we are, we're on, this is actually 8 pages, 6 to 8 pages. The proposal is done. Now, here's some tips to help you with your, the writing of this proposal. Then, on a new page, you begin annotated bibliography. And this is where you're going to take all your annotations. You're going to get, oh shoot.
Shame on them.
It's Barb Davis. She must be up here. I apologize. I usually put mine on silent, and I didn't. Anyway, when you write your annotated bibliography, now you are going to copy and paste your annotations into your annotated bib. And you'll start with, this is just the title. It's the example. This is an example only. Get rid of the red. But you are going to put annotated bibliography as the title, center it and bold it on the next page after your standards. And now you're going to start copying and pasting. Get rid of your name up here and move your citation up one to the top of the page. And then you are going to, the second page, here's the second page. Your next annotation, do not start it after that. Start a new page. Each annotation will probably be a page and a half, and you'll start a new annotation on a new page. Alrighty? And again, be careful of those widows and orphans when you are copying and pasting this. And when you put, last thing I will mention is when you put your annotations in there, you are going to put them in alphabetically by the first author's name. So, if it started with Watson, obviously I'm not the first annotation unless all your annotations are from W to Z. So, make certain that they're in alphabetical order. That's how you will copy and paste them. Voila! That's a
This
proposal.
is all do what?
Okay, now, go to tomorrow, yesterday, where are they? Exactly. Go to the proposal workshop, student copy. Take a look. Here is some information that we've discussed, the top part, but now look at due dates. Very important. And this follows, this aligns with your syllabus. This aligns with page 24 in your syllabus, the due dates. We're getting to the end, almost there.
And the PowerPoint is due the 28th of March, is that correct?
Our next class, yeah.
Our next class, woohoo! You guys have a
It's not
couple,
next week though.
you have a couple weeks off. Exactly. And March 28th, I'm jumping back, since the question was asked, to page 24 of your of your syllabus. And our next class meeting will be here. God willing, the creek don't rise, as they say, with our wonderful winter weather. It will be here in Incline, and you will come prepared to present your 3-minute PowerPoint presentation on March 28th. And what you will do, I'm kind of bird walking here, but with your PowerPoint, either send it to me, and I can save it and just pull it up on the screen, or you can just put on a jump drive. Easy. Actually do both if you so choose. Put it on a jump drive and send it to me, just so that there's no technical difficulties, and I will project it on the screen and you will present it. That is on March 28th, our next class meeting.
And your 9 and 10 are due then,
9, I'm sorry.
annotations.
Yes, exactly.
But not 11 and 12? 11 and 12 you're working on.
11 and 12 you're working on, but you guys have been so punctual. And I was going to mention this last, but if you choose 11 and 12 annotations, if you choose to submit them to me early, prior to the proposal, that's fine. I'll try to grade it and get it back to you as fast as I can. If not, not to worry, it is to be included in your proposal. And then I'll grade your proposal, but I'll also specifically grade 11 and 12.
So I just didn't see where it was actually due, and so I was like, wait, when do I?
What, yeah,
The 11 and
exactly.
12, but yeah, okay.
11 and 12 are officially due on April 4th. When we don't have a class meeting, you submit it electronically. You send your proposal to me electronically on April 4th by 5 o'clock p.m.
But if we turn them in early, that allows us to correct them before we submit them with our proposal.
Exactly, exactly. So when you get it back from me, if you've embedded it in your proposal and I haven't looked at it prior, then you'll have to correct 11 and 12
Okay.
along with your proposal. So your proposal's only going to be like 6 to 8 pages plus 11 and 12 unless you get it to me early. Okay, let's jump back to the proposal workshop handout. And this is exactly what we reviewed. Due dates. Note the proposal enters proposal review April 15th to May 1st. But before that, we need to get your proposal corrected by me to get permission and approval to submit it to proposal review. So the proposal is due electronically to me, to the instructor, before, if you get it done early, fine, send it to me, on or before April 4th at 5 p.m. And it includes 11 and 12, unless you've submitted them earlier. Second line, proposal returned electronically by the instructor before or on April 11th. So I will have about a week window to grade your proposals and return them to you. Then you will have a very short window, but about 4 days, for you to correct what I have given you from your proposal. Then your proposal your final proposal is due electronically to Dr. Varner that you actually were able to meet tonight. Most people say, who is this Dr. Varner? And he works here out of our incline office. So you will send it to him electronically, but you'll also send it to me. You will copy me so that there's no issues of it being lost and it is submitted on time. Then your proposal will enter proposal review. And you're done, basically, which is very exciting, for almost half a month. From April 15th to May 1st, it is in proposal review by the 2 professional editors. And it will be returned, as you know, with this rubric. Now, we will then meet on May 2nd and, fingers crossed, in Reno. It's very important that we have that last class in Reno. We've gotten very lucky, I guess we could use that word loosely, but that we've been able to meet here in Incline for the whole semester.
Can't be snowing still.
I know, that's what, I know, Beth sent me an email, she said, do you think I'll be snowing by the fall semester? I said, oh, please, no, no.
Might not be melted yet.
Yeah, it may not be
Yeah,
melted for
exactly.
sure. In our yard, I'm not sure. I've seen my husband, and he's here, so I can talk about him, but he gets so frustrated by having snow in the yard, he literally powers the snow blower onto the grass on the lawn and starts blowing it so that it will melt. Anyway, those of you that are distant and live in these sunny areas, except Elizabeth, who I know is in Bishop, and she has been challenged by driving to Mammoth to work, but very challenging, most definitely. We've had quite a winter. And Jennifer too, I have to say, Markleyville, she's definitely been challenged. But then you'll be done. On May 2nd, we will meet again in Reno. This is when I will talk about 635. We'll do an overview for 635 for the fall semester, and I will also have you register for 635. So I'll get your registration paperwork. Then during the week of 5/6 to, it's actually 5/10, but during that week, we will have the 635 students who are currently in the spring semester will be defending their projects. And it's extremely important for you to see those presentations so you know what that looks like. I will be talking about it on May 2nd, our May 2nd class in Reno, but they will be here, so you'll be able to come. That will literally be our last class. And we've got 15 students in 635. We'll have a large class again with the Reno and the Tahoe group in the fall semester. But there will be at least probably 3 or 4 days of presentations. You only have to see one day. And we usually start about 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. I may have to do Friday, and I may even do Saturday mornings, just because we have so many students. But I won't know what the schedule will be until we see who passes, literally, 635. But I'll get that out to you as soon as I possibly can. They go through what we call technical review, where their project is also evaluated by professional editors, the same professional editors. So that's what the rest of the semester will look like. So 5/2 is our meeting in Reno, and then that week, that following week, will be your attendance at one of those. And if you can't get here early enough, get here as soon as you can, so you can at least see 2. I would like you to see 4 presentations, so you can see the variety, those that are really good and those that are exemplary, and those that are, they're good. They'll be good teaching products, so to speak. But we can talk about that later for that week to see the presentations. Then, if you will notice at the end of your syllabus, it says on 5/9, no class meeting, electronic submittal. This is where our class literally ends that Friday of, I think it's a Friday, it might be a Thursday, I think it's a Thursday, of May 9th is when you will make the corrections to your proposal after it came out of proposal review, and you'll submit it to me as a final copy so that we have the final perfected copy as of May 9th, on or before. If you get it done earlier, that's fine. Some of you, it's possible that there may be more corrections needed. Again, I am not a professional editor, and I'm looking at your content. That's what's important to me in your proposal. And so between you, between me, between Beth, we may have missed something that the professional editors pick up. No biggie, we just fix it. And they're more APA technical. And we'll find out that question, Sasha. We definitely will, if not
the
before.
last names. Well, it's funny because then I read an article where somebody, I think they quoted my same article that I was reading, actually. But I don't know if it's APA, but they said K Brown and A Brown. So my Brown and Brown, somebody else cited it, but I don't know what they were citing.
And see,
I don't think it was APA, actually.
but that's how I've always done it. What we're talking about really, really quickly is, Sasha and I have this, here's my marker. Sasha and I have this confusion going on in that she had authors, 2 authors that she wrote an annotation about, and they were Brown and Brown. Well, easy in the citation, it's KA, something, is
I think those are, I just remember.
something like that. Anyway, so in the citation, then it's KA, and then the ampersand of Brown again, and we'll just call it ML. And then it was 2008, was it? Something like that. Alrighty. So now, because in the in the APA handbook on page 175, it talks about the same, or 176, it's right in there, the same surnames. When you have two authors with the same last name, you have to differentiate now in your text. And so you don't use initials in your text, as you know. I've always been taught, Sasha agreed, that we write K.A. Brown and M.L. Brown to differentiate between the two Brown authors. Unfortunately, Sasha and I both went to the books, and then we went to the apastyle.org, to the website, and now the website is kind of saying not necessary to use the initials, but I'm gonna find out before.
Okay.
Because I'm very curious. This is how, when we've received proposals back from proposal review, they always use the initials. This is how the editors have always included that. So what we can do is the professional editors and I will discuss and we'll make a decision. We'll just decide because, as I said, this SBC handbook supersedes, it trumps the APA manual. We can kind of do what we want, so. Whew, okay. Anton.
No, I don't really care, but I'm just saying, you don't have to do the initials before the Brown. Because if we do Cushlan and Watson, we're not gonna do initials to indicate what Watson and which Cushlan it is. There are thousands of us.
Right.
There are thousands of Browns, you just happen to be talking about two of them in the same thing. You're not differentiating ever which Brown it is. That's for you, oh, it's Brown and Brown 2008, we'll go up there, oh, that's the one.
And it's already, and you're absolutely right, Anton, it's already cited up here.
Correct.
It's already there, so you know exactly. But as APA mentions often, these authors are scholarly and they are researchers and they get kind of fussy and they want you to know who's who. Well, it's the same last name, but, so this is something we need to investigate.
Who
So
are
important in our lives, right? Who are, Amber?
the editors?
They are professional editors. They have an editing business down in Reno. And Anna Houghton and Lindsay Pugney, and they live in Reno, and they do a lot of editing for books when people get books published. And we were very, very blessed several years ago, it's probably been 5 or 6 years ago, to connect with them and have them review our work. So the exciting part is they know SNC, they know our standards, we know each other so well, all three of us in working together and also working with Beth and SNC staff and faculty, but they know then in looking at your proposal, the transition to 635 in creating your professional project. It's kind of exciting. And it's exciting for them. Like for me, I learned so much from your annotations, but then it's exciting to see how your project develops in 635 into something very valuable for teachers in the classroom. And with that, we'll say goodnight. Any questions? Okay.
Do we online edits?
Or if you have them in.
Oh, yeah.
You know
I
what,
can take
guys?
pairs and
You know
take a
what?
picture and-
We have, thank you, we have no time for reviews. If you want to do it, I just looked, we've got 1 minute. So the proposal workshop is extremely important. So either do it online or exchange right now and scan it back to each other, whatever you'd like to do. Anton, you're a good sport. Thank you so much. Hang in there. Yes, hope you're feeling better.